Welcome to Getting Real with Josh Boyer, the show that embraces radical vulnerability and authenticity. Josh creates a judgment-free zone for his guests to share openly and candidly. Listen in as they discuss life, philosophy, passion, drive, empowerment, and purpose. Join us as we seek to leave our world better than we found it and send ripples of positive, lasting change out into the world.
So here we are, guys. We're on the My Backstory podcast with Bedros Keuilian, the owner, founder, CEO of Fit Body Bootcamp, also the author of this book. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, so I'm going to hold it up a little bit closer. It's called Man Up. I've actually read this book, and I'm reading it again on audio because it's pretty cool because Bedros is actually the person who's reading it to you on the audio, which is really cool because you don't get that too often. You have the author that writes a book, and that's somebody else's voice that's reading it to you. So I'm super excited to talk to you and hear your backstory.
Thanks.
I've intermingled with people that you know that have said nothing but great things about you. So I was like, man, I got to get him on the podcast.
Cool. It's
a fascinating story. So I'm going to let you take it away and share whatever you feel is relevant to your backstory.
Well, let me first start off by saying recording your own audiobook is weird.
Is it?
Because, well, at least it was weird for me. I shouldn't maybe transfer that feeling on others. But it was weird for me because being a foreigner to this country and English being a second language for me, I grew up speaking very broken English, especially as a kid. Remember that thing that they would do in class in elementary school where each kid would read a page out of a chapter, and so like we finished the chapter, right? And so I would get sweaty palms just waiting for the next kid and the next kid. Now it's my turn, and I would read really choppy and wouldn't pronounce the words right. Yeah. And so that, kids laugh at you, right? So as you get older, I'm like, cool, man, I've got all the money in the world, so I'm going to get a really good reader to read my book.
Right.
And so, of course, with social media, you share everything that's going on in your life. So I'm like, hey, folks, here's the cover. The book launches in a few months. We're going to have an audiobook out. And then when I said that, people were like, well, you're reading the book, right? I was like, well, no. But I'm like a professional, hiring a professional. This guy's going to be good. Right? And I was like, no. You got to read the book. We hate when people don't read their own book. And I remember there was a specific book. There's many that I didn't like where the author didn't write it. But one specific one, it was Steve Harvey's book. And, dude, Steve Harvey is a fantastic comedian, enthusiastic. And I remember thinking, I'm going to download his audiobook because it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And it was some robotic guy reading, and I was like, oh, crap. Like this... I didn't finish it, I'm going to be honest with you. I just bought the physical book and just read that and just in my head heard Steve Harvey's voice. So I kind of knew what everyone was talking about. But at the same time, I had this internal fear. And the fear was, shoot, they're all going to laugh at me again. This is going to be really stupid. The guys in the studio are going to think that I'm not a professional. But I am a professional. I run a professional franchise. We make millions. We donate tons of money. But I'm not a professional reader, right? And so I was just in my head for weeks. And Joan, who you just met, my assistant, was like, look, dude, you got to do it. Why don't I book twice the time? So instead of 2 days for your book, your publisher said, they'll pay for 4 days in the studio. So I walk into the studio in Costa Mesa, not too far from here, and I see like a gold record from Whitney Houston and then one from Jamie Foxx and then Green Day. I'm like, hey, they recorded here? They're like, yeah. I'm like, crap. Like these people were pros, man, right?
Perfectionist.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, listen, I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to disappoint you. At any given time, you guys can say stop, and I'll just stop. I'll leave, and I'll hire a professional. He can come and do this or whatever. Yeah. And the guy starts laughing, the sound engineer. He's like, dude, we got you. You got this. And truth be told, it was one of the greatest overcomes that I had because you don't realize you're carrying that fear with you of reading out loud. And most times I've been able to avoid that in my life. So a friend of mine, Jason Ferruccio, was like, hey, man, let's go to an improv class. Let's take an improv class. I'm like, does it involve reading? He's like, well, we're going to read scripts, and you have to read it in different characters. I'm like, I'm not going. But I'll go out and have drinks with you, right? So I'm always able to talk my way out of reading until I had to read my own book. Yeah. But, man, they were so professional. They really walked me through it. They had me read the acknowledgments and the thank yous, which were very heartfelt for me. They had me start with that first. Yeah. And before you know it, I started finding a rhythm. Then by when half of the first day was done, we started at chapter 1 and started going. And it did take 3 of the 4 days, and they did a fantastic job, cleaning up the ums and uhs. But that's kind of where my backstory starts, is that I'm the foreigner, man. I'm the immigrant. Yeah. I came from a communist country when I was 6 years old, and my dad was a member of the Communist Party, which I guess by default made me a communist, right? So my backstory is that I'm the immigrant edge, and I'm the American dream, because when your dad decides that we're going to escape Soviet Union and come here, you're the baby of the family, 6 years old. My brother was 19 and my sister was 22 at the time when we got here. And they're working paper delivery routes and working at pizzerias and pumping gas and cleaning homes and offices. Like, each of them had 3 or 4 jobs. And since I'm the kid of the house, well, I just stayed home. Yeah. And I remember constantly hearing my dad say, like, work is holy. Like, one of my dad's Armenian sayings is that work is holy. Like, it's this holy thing from God. And so I guess early on I was always brainwashed positively that work is a good thing. Like, don't shy away from work. Don't be allergic to work. Yeah. And so, dude, by the time I was 8 years old, I was digging up posters from the dumpster. Some store went out of business. They had posters of like AC/DC and different rock bands. And I was selling it for $1.50 and 50 cents, raising money to go buy Arby's, because I loved American food, but my mom was like, we're going to eat Armenian food because it's cheaper, right? And so, like, to me, like, my motivation was tied to food, because I'm a fat kid in disguise. And but as I learned the language and, dealt with a lot of bullies, we lived in Section 8 housing. Like, the backstory is nuts. I tell the story and I can't even believe this. So imagine this. Now, around 8 years old, right when I'm selling those posters, we're living in Santa Ana, California. Again, not too far from here. You're from Southern California. You know this. And at the time in the 80s, Santa Ana was very gang-riddled. Hispanic gangs, black gangs. And they're duking it out and fighting until the Armenian kid comes into town. And now they're beating up my older brother and me, right? And so I learned very quickly how to negotiate and talk my way out of fights. Right. And so little did I know, years later, I'd be in business using my negotiation skills to build rapport and talk my way out of deals that I didn't want to be in, or talk my way into deals that I did want to be a part of. So all these adversities that I dealt with, which were horrific at the time, I moved around to 3 elementary schools, 2 junior highs, 2 high schools. And I was like, man, I'm just so tired of moving. And so when you go and you meet a new friend, you don't know how long you're going to know Josh before you go to a new school. So, man, I built rapport with you quickly, and we became best friends, and we built memories before my dad was like, we got kicked out of the Section 8 housing, we're moving again.
So Section 8 to Section 8 or what?
Section 8 is basically government. Yeah, Section 8.
So you go to a different Section 8.
Exactly, Section 8 to Section 8. And for the audience that doesn't know, it's government-assisted housing, right? So it's not necessarily the cleanest housing. And one of the times, and again, it just sounds like a story when I say this, but one of the times, and I had to run it by my mom, like, this really happened, right? She goes, yeah, you remember correctly. I got lice from one of the apartments we lived in, and my mom and dad are kind of mumbling to each other, and my mom points to a parked car. I remember it was a brown car, and my dad goes and siphons out gasoline from someone else's parked car, like a cup or two. Yep. And then my mom has me double over, like on the grassy part of the apartment complex, washes my hair with gasoline to kill the lice. Oh, wow. I later found out that we didn't have enough money to afford lice treatment, right? Yeah. And so when you are raised with these adversities, you learn so much. For the backstory, it's like, man, that sucked. Like, kids were laughing at me. Yeah. I grow up, and my current story is I learned resourcefulness. That when my mom and dad didn't have the financial resources to buy lice treatment for their kid, they still solved the problem by getting resourceful. Yeah, breaking the law and siphoning out gasoline from a parked car, but they solved their kid's problem, man. Definitely. And today, one of the topics that I talk about a lot is that if you want to be of value to your employer, or if you are an employer, if you're a business and you want to build tremendous value and be an industry titan, you have to be able to solve the most difficult problems that others can't. The more sophisticated problem you can solve, the better. My mom solved a simple problem. Kids got lice, we don't have money, siphon out gasoline, I'm washing his hair, right? But now if you can solve the more sophisticated problems you can solve, the more valuable you become to your employer or to the industry you're in. And so I've learned so much about being resourceful and how adversity is actually an advantage, because my threshold for dealing with crap is so high because when you're having to move a lot, like emotionally resilient, like my wife calls me a cockweed, which is she calls you're a combination between a cockroach and a weed. Like you just never die and you always survive and you just always figure it out, you know? And I'm like, great compliment, babe, you know? I'll take it. I'll take it, right? Because that's how we survived. Yeah. And there was a time where we couldn't afford food. Well, we could. It's just my dad was hell-bent on starting his own little tailor shop. Right. This was now in the mid-'80s. We got here in June 16, 1980. And so my dad, in one of his many jobs that he has throughout the day, there was a gas station, and behind the gas station in the same shopping center was a grocery store. And he had figured out these grocery stores have these giant dumpsters, and when food expires or it's gone bad, they throw it in the dumpster. Yeah. And so my dad's like, look, we're not going to go buy food. Like, let's just put the kid in the dumpster, and he can fish out bread and milk and cheese and eggs and lettuce with brown leaves. But if you peel enough of those lettuce leaves away, there's a tiny little green lettuce left in there to eat. And so that's how we ate sometimes. And more resourcefulness, more figuring out that adversity is an advantage, because if you really want to solve a problem, you can by doing FIO, figure it out. And so all these things from my childhood and being a foreigner and an immigrant to a country like this has helped me now in business, and I feel it almost gives me this like unfair advantage.
Yeah. When did you figure out, like when you were growing up, that, you know what, this isn't the life that I want. I know I'm going to make something of myself. I mean, I read the story where you're working at Disneyland, you're working at the gay bar as a bouncer. Yeah. And it's like, you're like doing all these things and like, working multiple jobs to try to make ends meet. Did you know, like from a young age, like I'm going to make it, I'm going to be successful?
I think I talked about it in the book, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm actually, I am. I did talk about it. I was, so at this point I was 10, maybe 11 years old. My sister, who, I'm the oops baby, right? So I was 6 years old, my brother's 19, my sister's 22. Yeah. So clearly my parents meant to have them, but oops, and then there I was. Right. So my sister really raised me. So it's like I had two moms. Yeah. And so I really, like my sister, like I would kill people for her. In fact, she still works for me from her house on her laptop whenever she wants. Yeah. And dude, oh man, this is crazy. I don't know if I've ever actually out loud talked about it. I typed about it. Talking about it is weird. She came home one day crying to my dad. She worked at a pizzeria, and she was like the server. Like, so she would take the pizza and take it to the table. And they can have like a plastic cup of water to drink, but you can't drink soda from the soda fountain. Right. And every now and again, the pizzeria owner would sip out of her cup to taste test and make sure it's not Sprite or 7-Up. Yeah. And she came home crying to my dad in Armenian, telling him, like, I don't know who this guy is. He's putting his lips around my cup. I don't want to throw the cup away because then he's going to do the next one. I'm going to offend him. I'm going to lose the job. We need the money. And she was just distraught, man. She was falling apart. And my dad's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, we need the money. Just deal with it. Just drink from the other. His answer was drink from the other side of the cup. Right. And that was scarring to me, man, because that's not my sister and my second mom. And so after she stopped crying, I went to her and I was like, hey, I'm going to make so much money that you're never going to have to work again. And I guess I did. Awesome. But that was a massive scar that was left on me, and I didn't know how to process that. And I later realized now, a good friend of mine is a therapist, and he's also the therapist that I talk about in my book because he's my therapist. And I went to him for 16 months, once a week. But his name is Kevin, and Kevin talked about when 9/11 happened, there was a daycare across the street, like at a church, and these little children are watching through the window as adults are throwing themselves out the window, because the alternative is to burn to death or to fling yourself out the window. And so when these kids start growing up and having some problems in the next year or two, they're taking a therapist, and to be able to process it, to reconcile it, they were showing people jumping out of they would draw it, they were drawing for the therapist, except they weren't, even though they were seeing them splat and die, what their brain was turning it into is they were landing on a trampoline or a mattress. Constantly was that. Your
brain was like protecting them.
Protecting you.
Yeah.
So my brain was protecting me by saying, if you never want to see your family unhappy again, getting kicked out of apartments, having your sister basically micromanage of what she's drinking, the fights that would break out in my family when my brother's like, let's just go back to Armenia. Like, because my brother and sister, they're Armenian culture. Like, I'm Americanized.
Right.
The fights that would break out till 2 or 3 in the morning, man. Like, hey, this was a bad idea, Dad. And my dad's like, no, man, the freedom that we have here, like, I'm in the Communist Party over there. Like, my life is always on the line. We can't go back. There's no going back. And I knew, it just seemed to me that money was the solution. Yeah. And so that's how my brain reconciled, like, hey, I'm going to have a happy family if I can make a lot of money. And so those dots connected, and I guess that was my first, the spark for being an entrepreneur. But the journey was something else, because I got certified as a personal trainer, and I just wanted to be a full-time personal trainer and work for myself. But as you might know, like, you can't just be in great shape and have a certification and clients are going to flock to you. Right. You got to know how to market yourself, sell yourself, have some level of enthusiasm. And I have that now, but in my 20s, I didn't have that. I was just this meathead, insecure, lack confidence. And so I just kept complaining to my clients that I keep having to have 2 side jobs. Like, I worked at Disneyland as a fry cook and as a busboy. Then on the weekends I worked at a gay bar, because the gay bar paid more than the straight bar, because skinheads would come to gay bash. Yeah. And so, like, no bouncer wants to work in an environment where they're going to get in fights every freaking night with gangs, right? Yeah. So that was my journey, but I was hell-bent, whether, skinheads coming in and fighting, or I have to work at Disneyland and wear a goofy little bow tie and I had a manager who I talk about in there. Her name is Kathy. By the way, the only name I didn't change, because the publisher's like, hey, you gotta change the names in the book to protect the innocent. The only name I didn't change was Kathy's. I left it in there.
Have you seen her since, or have you reached out to her, or tried to find her?
No, I don't. I haven't, and I don't.
Look at me now.
I don't care to. Yeah, I don't care to. If she finds me, great. Like, but again, so I realize in life, like, negative reinforcement works better for me. Like, if you're like, hey, Bedros, here's a carrot, I'm like, looks good. If you're like, I'm gonna whoop you, I'll probably do the job. Right. And because pain has always motivated me. Like, the pain of Kathy putting that pen against my sideburn in Disneyland, and I was below the grooming standards. My sideburns were a tiny bit below my earlobe, and she's docking my pay, and it's the electric parade, and there's like thousands of people on Main Street, because I worked in Carnation Cafe on Main Street restaurant, and I have to go and shave my sideburns up a little bit, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. She's like, I'm your manager. I'm like, all right. So I was like,
power trip.
I'm gonna have my own business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. What do you think now, though, going through all those things, like, what do you think drives you now? What's the driving force for you? Like, what keeps you in the game? What keeps you motivated?
Well,
what is it?
So it's funny, because now it's less about the pain, because money does take away a lot of pain. Like, let's face it, people are like, money can't buy happiness. I beg to differ. Money can buy happiness by way of experiences with my wife and kids. It buys back my wife's time. My wife doesn't have to, well, she works upstairs. She's our controller, our financial officer, but she takes off whenever she wants to pick up the kids. My kids never have to see the inside of a daycare, because we buy back my wife's time so she can be with our kids. Yeah. We buy private school for my kids. We're able to fly first class. I'm able to show them the world that I never saw. Dude, we got on a plane once when I was 6 years old to come to the United States. Never got on a plane again until I was 26.
Oh, wow.
For 20 years, the whole world was Southern California for me, which isn't a bad place, Southern California. But, dude, I hadn't heard like a British accent, and so I wanted my kids to experience accents and cultures and different religions and different environments of, like, look, that's an old building. Like, here in California, 100-year-old building is nothing. Like, that's a 1,000-year-old cathedral, son, right? And so, and truly with them, I was experiencing it vicariously through them. Totally. And so it was very healing. But so today, it's really my potential. Like, now I'm like, what do I have the potential to do? Do I have the potential to build a business and sell it for $1 billion? Why not? So now it's my human potential and the idea of experiences that drive me. It's no longer pain or the lack of, or the avoidance of pain.
Yeah. Do you see, like, that there's a finish line for you? Like, it's like, if I achieve this goal, then I'm done? Or is it there's no finish line? You're just going to work until the wheels fall off?
I will always work. I will always be what my friend Ed Milet calls blissfully dissatisfied. And you can use tiny little letters for blissful, because it's mainly dissatisfied. And then my friend Tim Grover, who wrote a great book called Relentless.
Oh yeah.
We were out for steak a couple months ago. And I go, Tim, I'm just never satisfied. I read your book, and I know like Michael, because he was Michael Jordan's trainer.
Yep. Kobe Bryant too.
Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. I'm like, I think I have a sickness, right? He goes, no. He goes, if you try to be satisfied with business, you will find yourself in other problems. You will find yourself in other things meddling that will destroy your life. Could be drugs, could be infidelity. Like, Tim, you are like my life guru right now. Like, he goes, you're a cleaner. I know what a cleaner's DNA is, and you will forever be dissatisfied. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. The thing is, and people are like, oh man, that's sad. No, it's not. I'm happy. I'm just dissatisfied because I'm like, I think my potential is here, coach. So why would I stop there? When people go, when is enough enough? I don't know. I don't know where my potential is. I suppose I'll be satisfied if I reach my potential, but I don't think we're made to reach our potential. Everyone's like, go reach your potential. I don't think we're designed to, man. We're supposed to keep striving until we eat it and die.
Do you think that there's a drop-off between your generation and then the generation after you? Like for your kids' generation, are you worried for them based on what you're seeing, or are you hopeful?
Am I worried for my kids or their generation?
Their generation. Well, your kids, I think they'll be okay because they have you as their dad.
Yeah,
but I mean, that generation.
I'm hard on them for a reason. Like, environment was hard on me. I'm hard on them. And so is my wife, in the best way possible.
Right.
Their generation I'm a bit worried about, but I also know that it's cyclical, man. It's cyclical. Like, look at the generation of badass warfighters, yourself included. Are you a millennial technically, or no?
I think I missed the cutoff by.
Okay.
I was born in '81, so.
Okay.
I don't know if I.
I think you're on the cusp because my wife's born in '81, and she's like right there towards the end of a millennial. But you went to war for this country, man. Like, you're the reason why we came, why we escaped. My dad risked communism, like getting killed, and we escaped to the United States. And so when you look at so many millennials who have, after 9/11, decided that I am going to do something greater than myself and go join the military and fight and bring the fight to the enemy, like, events will happen that will take a soft generation like millennials and harden them up. And
that's a good point.
I heard this phrase that says, and I hope I don't slaughter it, but it says, good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. Bad times create strong men. Strong men create good times. And then it repeats itself.
The cycle. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
And it's so true. So there will always be, and then look at that. There's 9/11, and then the economy crashed.
Yep. More
people had to step up. People who were like, oh, mom and dad are working. Oh, shit, mom and dad don't have a job now. I better go get a job. Soft generations are forced to work and volunteer and step up because all of life is suffering, and there will be another reason for us to suffer. And that's good. It's by design. We need that.
Right.
We need that. And so I believe that while I'm not worried about my kids' generation, I'm just wondering what their 9/11, what their economic crash, what their suffering will be.
How do you find the balance? Because I know, like, for me, like, I grew up in a 23-foot travel trailer with a bunch of brothers and sisters, and having the kids laugh at me being picked up from the school bus and stuff like that.
Oh, fun.
So I had this I have this internal thing where it's like, oh, I'll show you. You know what I mean? Like, all the people thought I wasn't gonna make it. Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah. 6
back surgeries. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna keep trucking, and I'm not gonna stop. And how do you find that balance? 'Cause I know with my kids, I always feel like I'm like not teaching them enough, or I'm not like, I don't want them to see the things that I saw. I don't want them to experience the hardships that I had to experience. But at the same time, I don't want to raise soft children. You know what I mean? And I have 4 boys, so it's tough, because it's like, you're never going to experience or see the things that I did. You're never going to live in the neighborhoods that I did. But at the same time, like, I don't want to make you guys soft by just giving you everything.
Well, that is the dichotomy of balance, right? You don't want them to experience what you did. I don't want my kids to experience what I did. Right. But I also don't want them to be the next Paris Hiltons. Not my son, not my daughter. And so I manufacture adversity. That's really what you got to do. So, son, you're 13 years old. You're about to turn 13, which means you're about to become a young man.
Right.
And that means you got to go through a rite of passage. What does that mean, Dad? we're going to Idaho.
Nice.
What for? My friend owns a kill house, and you're going to go through and learn how to clear a room and do scary stuff that's going to freak you out, give you lots of problems, lots of anxiety, stress, etc. And I invited 9 other of my friends who I consider to be modern day knights. And so we manufactured adversity. Now, it wasn't just like all of a sudden he was like a total video game hog, and then he turns 13 and we're like, hey, we're going to Idaho to this kill house.
Right.
I taught him very, very early on when he was just a little puppy, like, son, when someone comes up to you, hey, little boy, what's going on? As soon as you start talking, stand up when you're going to shake hands, make eye contact, and ask 3 questions about them. Even if they go, little boy, what's your name? What do you do? Tell them who you are, what you do, and then ask them 3 things. I would take my kids, both my son and daughter, to Fitness Business Summit since the day they were born, my big annual event that I run. Be like, oh, look, Bedros' babies. But as soon as those babies became toddlers, get up on stage, throw eggs with me, because we throw plastic eggs full of money to the audience.
Right.
And when they were meeting people, Chloe, stand up, make eye contact, shake hands, and then I taught them, well, where are you from? Because where they would, people are flying in from all over to see me. Where are you from? What do you do? Do you own any of my dad's products? Like, I gave them the 3 questions to ask. It's on them to ask. And I would make my wife listen in. Did they ask, or are they just being like little kids, looking at their feet and mumbling out answers like that? That's unacceptable for me. We got to give our kids hardship and adversity. I never want my kids to eat out of dumpsters. I never want their hair to be washed with gasoline. You never want your kids to live in a trailer park or to experience the freaking hardships that you have. But you got to give them, and you will give them, you probably are giving them adversity and challenges. So hey, you guys want to go in the pool? Absolutely, great. 200 push-ups a piece and then 10 burpees, and then you're going in the pool. There was always a trade-off that created, I've got to earn an outcome. I've got to earn an outcome that I want. And I'm hoping that works. It looks like it is, because they're pretty solid kids, and other people say so, not just me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because I read in the book how you were talking about how you lacked confidence, you lacked the self-confidence, you were kind of shy, and you're like, I need to come out of my shell a little bit. To see you doing that with your kids is phenomenal, because I know that I struggle with that too, being shy, and people that know me are like, oh, you've always been a gregarious guy, you go out there and talk to everybody. I was like, no, but you don't know what's going on internally.
Right.
And it's been an internal dialogue that I need to get through things. Hey, I just need to go and force myself to do it. So with my kids, I need to start doing that with them, because I don't want them to inherit some of my bad traits,
Exactly.
So now I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
How did Fit Body Bootcamp come to be? How was that born?
That's a really good question. Out of more adversity and more pain, I didn't want to go move in with my wife and kids into my parents' house. The year was 2008. The housing market crashed to oblivion, as you know, and I was a business coach and consultant to personal trainers at this time. I'd already sold my 5 personal training gyms. They were very successful, and I sold them for a nice chunk of change in 2002, 2003 era. Started coaching and consulting personal trainers when everyone had money, right? So personal trainers have money because their clients have money, and they're buying their services for one-on-one services. All of a sudden, the economy crashes, and the Mrs. Joneses that we call as our clients don't have the money. So they stop using the personal trainer. The personal trainer tells me, I got to shut my gym down. I don't need a business coach anymore. Peace out. My income literally went from $30,000 a month down to $7,000.
Oh, shit.
My lifestyle was around $16,000, $17,000. Right. And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. Yeah. And at that time, I'm seeing all these outdoor boot camps happening, and I realized these boot camps are not one-on-one. They're one-on-many, which means you can charge less. Instead of $600 to $800 a month for one-on-one training, you can charge $150 a month and have a whole bunch of clients and still make the same amount of money or more. Yeah. But the problem with these outdoor boot camps is the whole country is not California, which means there's rain, there's snow, there's inclement weather, there's darkness. They can't run boot camps everywhere. Yeah. I'm going to be the solution. I'm going to take the indoor boot camp, outdoor boot camp, bring it indoors, and make a system out of it and make it work. So while, again, out of desperation to not live with my mom and dad and to make money, I had to pivot my business, and I saw an opportunity that if we can just do this on the low cost. In fact, the first Fit Body boot camps, because the economy had crashed so hard, the first Fit Body boot camps, when I say first, the first 200 locations, possibly more. Now we've got almost 1,000. Dude, they got 6 to 8 months of free rent in the storefronts that they were renting. Wow. Because economy crashes, all these businesses go out of business. Yeah. The landlords are like, I'm sitting on all this inventory. Yeah. And now this trainer's walking up and saying, hey, look, I'll take that 2,500 square foot space that you have, instead of $3 a square foot, I'll give you 80 cents a square foot. And can I get 6 months of free rent? Sure.
Wow.
And so that's how Fit Body Bootcamp was born. And I started negotiating that rent for them.
Yeah.
And once I realized this was working, I taught all of our franchisees how to negotiate that. So like they were gobbling up square footage for pennies on the dollar and not paying rent for 6 to 8 months out, which really gave them a leg up on building their businesses. So if it had the economy not crashed, man, this empire would not have been built.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was the very first Fit Body Bootcamp? Where was it located?
Rancho Santa Margarita, California, inside of or was it Costa Mesa? Either Rancho Santa Margarita or Costa Mesa, inside of a all-star cheer center. So it was like a gymnastics and cheer center.
Yeah.
And I don't know if your kid's doing any kind of gymnastics or if you've been in one of those places, but they have that 1.25" carpet bonded foam, the soft foam, so they can tumble on.
Yeah.
And if you look inside of Fit Body boot camps today, the flooring that we use, we still give a nod to the to our heritage of the gymnastics center. Our flooring is still, it's no longer the blue foam floors like they use. We've now have our custom colors, black and gray, but it's still the 1.25" carpet bonded foam that you would find at a gymnastics center. And what's cool is the moms are like, hey, isn't this the same flooring at my kid's gymnastic place? Yep, sure is, and it works for them. You're going to tumble too. It's going to work for you. Yeah. And yeah, but the first one was out there because, dude, I wasn't sure if, like, I don't want to sign a 3 to 5 year lease and this thing not work. So I'm like, all right, where could I just try an indoor boot camp and just test it out to see if it works? So I found that gymnastics center, and I said, hey, look, yeah, like, you guys don't have your kids coming here till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. All morning you're empty. Can I pay you $500 a month and just go month to month? They're like, yeah.
That's awesome.
Dude, I put battle ropes, kettlebells, furniture sliders, because it slides well on the carpet and we can do all types of fun stuff. And then dumbbells, like in these plastic containers. And that was the first Fit Body boot camp. And the first 10 or 12 were actually indoors like that in gymnastic centers. And then after that, I was like, all right, this is going to work. Let's start signing leases.
So is it all the same workout across any Fit Body boot camp? If I go to a Fit Body boot camp in Glendora and then I go to another one in Rancho Santa Margarita, is it going to be the same workout that you're going to see, just different instructors? Or is that
same type of workout, high intensity interval training to create the afterburn effect?
Yep.
So that our whole thing is you burn twice the fat in half the time, which is why the 30-minute workouts. But so we got this technology called workoutology, and you literally go, all right, spit out a workout, and it will spit out a workout. There's 700 different variations of workouts, but they all work off what we call the 4-station rotation. So in my studio here, for example, imagine if we had kettlebells there, battle ropes here, TRX there, and slam balls here, 4 stations. Now we can put 5 people, because there's 5 of everything, 5 people on each station. Now we've got 20 people rotating.
Yeah.
So it might be bodyweight squats or lunges next time, but every day you get to pick, as in the head coach, the workout that you're doing, but it all hovers around high intensity interval training, and it's all based on the 4-station rotation. But
it's no joke either, because I've done it.
Oh, have you done it? Okay.
Yeah, so I was asking because I went to the one in Glendora because that's where we were living at the time.
Yeah.
And my wife was going, and she was like, yeah, you should go try a workout. And, you know, being that, like, you know, before all the back surgery and stuff, I used to be a big, strong guy. I was working out all the time. I was like, this will be easy.
Yeah.
Dude, it kicks my ass.
It's a different type of workout
Yeah,
than
it's not easy,
No,
you know?
Yeah. And I'm glad you liked it, because
no, for
most
sure.
people think, oh, this is just for women, right? No, you're a big strapping guy. Go in there.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
You know, for sure. I was sweating hard. Yeah, for sure. Where do you see it going? What are your plans for it with Fit Body Boot Camp?
Dude,
do you want to sell it? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to add more clubs? Like,
we're definitely going to add more locations. My goal is to get to 2,000 locations by 2023. And at that point, you know, we've already gotten offers to sell it, a portion or all of it. Right. We haven't. And if the right offer comes along, I would certainly entertain it. Yeah. But I'll never sell all of it. I'll always retain some of it and be on the board of directors, because I don't want to be that guy that sold this thriving business and then some people buy it and they start cutting away services and to save money and then crash and burn it. You see that happen a lot in the entrepreneurial world. And I don't want to be that guy. It's like, I've worked too hard to build this thing, and it's my baby, man. It's what I do. I was a personal trainer from day one after I graduated high school. Like, I'm not about to let this empire crumble because someone decides that they're going to make a bad decision. So I always want to have a sense of control over it.
Did you know, like, early on, like, you knew you were going to make money, but did you think you were going to make money being an entrepreneur, or did you think you were going to make money working for somebody else?
I
Because I feel
definitely
like that's not like
Yeah.
the norm, you know? Like most people are scared to be an entrepreneur because it's like you lose the benefits, you lose the, you know, the medical insurance and all the like the sure, you know, paycheck every 2 weeks.
Dude, entrepreneurs are stupid. I mean, think about this.
Right.
Think about how stupid we are. We go, all right, so I got this idea that's going to cost me money, that's going to take a lot of risk, that has no safety net and benefits. Oh, by the way, the competition already exists. But I have a feeling I'm going to create it,
Right.
and they're going to come. And they're going to come faster than my money, what little money I have, is going to lose.
Yeah.
That's pretty stupid.
That's crazy.
Yet I knew that my only path was to be an entrepreneur. I knew I was going to work for myself because, again, seeing how my parents and my sister and my brother were shafted by their employers. Again, keep in mind it was the 80s, and it wasn't like they were working for IBM. They were working for like Bob's Pizzeria, and Bob is pissed off at the world. God knows he had his own problems. He has trust issues. He's sipping out of my sister's cup. Or the guy who's paying my dad cash, $1.13 an hour, when the minimum wage was $3.44. But hey, listen, and he was a jerk to my dad. And one time my dad wanted to just take a 5-minute bathroom break, and he couldn't, so he had to pee in a beer can, like a you know. And so hearing all that stuff as a kid, you know this, you got kids. Yeah. Our kids are always recording, man. Like my parents, like they didn't realize I was like listening and recording, but I'm listening. I'm like, okay, so bosses are bad. Obviously, I got to have my own job, and I got to make a lot of money. So it was just entrepreneurship was the only avenue. Yeah. So I had to be stupid.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people, though, that because the word entrepreneur gets thrown around so much in our day and age, you know, with social media and everything else, everyone's like, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, God.
But I don't think it's for everyone.
I talk people out of it.
Right, because it's scary, you know? Like, even when I was starting the podcast, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to capitalize on this. I don't know how I'm going to monetize my podcast. So I know that it's going to be an investment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to be a stupid investment, but I'm going to make it anyway.
Yep.
And so I was like, you know, I'm just going to travel all over the country, and I'm going to fly to my guest. That's going to be what's different. Everyone's doing a podcast. You can do a podcast over Zoom. You can do it over, you know, Skype or whatever. I was like, no, but I want to fly to my guest, you know, because then I don't miss the opportunity to connect with another human.
Bingo. And that's the only reason I was like, dude, I'm on board, right? Because the Zoom ones, it's so impersonal, number one. Two, there's always a technological glitch somewhere, either on my side or your side.
Right.
This is what matters.
Yeah.
And this might spawn off a relationship for another business or another venture or friendship or whatever. Right. And that's what's missing, man. People are always in it for the sprint. You're doing the marathon, right, and you're doing it right.
I appreciate that for sure. Where do you what other stuff do you have in the works right now besides Fit Body Bootcamp? What's your other baby that you're working on?
Well,
you got to be working on something. There's no finish line.
No, there's no blissfully dissatisfied forever. So there's actually 3 babies. One of them I can't talk about because we haven't really inked the deal yet. But I'm about to buy up a pretty big software company. That's all I can say about that. But the 2 other passion projects. The 2 passion projects are the project that I'm doing actually with Ray Care, who you interviewed, right? Navy SEAL Ray Care. And the other one is a supplement company. The supplement company came out of a need. Yeah. You know, we have almost 1,000 locations worldwide. I don't know, nearly 1 million clients worldwide in Fit Body Boot Camps. These clients need supplements. And why are we sending them out to GNC and they're buying poor quality supplements that have additives or artificial sweeteners that are actually poisonous, toxic for the body? And so I was like, you know what? We need to create our own supplement line. And it has to be just like truly clean supplements, like no hormones, no GMO, no artificial sweeteners. So we use monk fruit and stevia. Is it more expensive? Absolutely. But is it a better quality product? Yes. And so we created TrueLean is our supplement line for Fit Body Boot Camp, and we sell it within our Fit Body Boot Camp location. So not only do our location owners make more money, their clients get a better product that we recommend they get anyway. And actually starting November, so a couple months from now, we go direct to consumer with TrueLean. So hopefully that'll make a big splash.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then the project is if you said, hey, Bedros, I'm going to take away everything, every business that you have, you can only keep one, it would be my newest baby, which is the project. And not because it's new and shiny, but because I've been wanting to do this for the last year since I launched my book, and the demand came in, where we take 16 men for 75 hours, and I can cuss on your show, right?
Absolutely.
We literally help these men unfuck themselves, because if you're married have kids, have a career or a business, and you're somewhere in your 30s and 40s, most men are like, shit, I don't know if my wife likes me anymore. I'm pretty sure I don't like her. I'm passive aggressive towards her. I feel guilty when I don't see my kids, but when I'm with my kids, I feel like I'm missing out at work. They thought they were going to be here when they were in high school and college, but maybe they fucked around, maybe they underestimated, whatever it was, but they're not there. And now they're suffering in silence. They're a bit depressed. They're anxious about life. They're white knuckling through life. They've never really they lost the fire, man, right? And so I was like, and so what I did, and I openly talk about it, I put myself through these 6-week challenges. Like, all right, I'm going to beat myself up by doing a marathon. I've never run a marathon. I'm designed to lift weights. Look at me. And so I signed up for a marathon, and I trained for 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, you learn so much about yourself, where day one, you're just, my running coach was like, you're going to run 1 mile, jog, walk, run 1 mile. Day 3, so every other day, you're going to go 1.5 miles. And then before you know it, I'm doing 8 miles, 13 miles. But in that time, I also want to like just not do it. And I was like, no one's going to know if I don't do it. Yep. Who's going to know? No one. But I was like, dude, if you don't do it, you're a little bitch, because how many other things have you not done in your life which has gotten you to the point in my book where Fit Body Bootcamp was financially upside down. I sold my favorite car. I had a little Nissan GTR that my son and I would drive around, speed through Chino Hills. I had to sell that for $40,000 less than market value, because I needed to pay payroll and my income taxes like the following week. Yeah. And so a string of bad decisions left me fat, depressed, having anxiety attacks, and in debt. In my 30s, I was 36, 37, 38, right around there in that window. And I was like, all right, dude, time for you to like be reborn. And so I just started punishing myself by taking on these 6-week challenges that I always said, I'm not good at running, I'm not good at surfing, I'm not good at MMA. You know, I was like, well, you know, with a group of guys as bouncers, you can take one guy out of the bar who's a skinhead, or even 2 or 3 guys. I'm like, but I've never really I don't know if I could hold myself against an MMA fighter.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to do 6 weeks of MMA fighting and see how this is like. And the first time getting choked out, it was the most panicky, scary thing, man. Like, you know, I'm a control freak, and I can't breathe. And he told me, like, you're going to pass out here. I'm going to put you to sleep. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking I can out-muscle him. Right. Because the guy weighed like 150 pounds, and I'm 230 pounds. Technique overrides muscle all day long.
All day.
And so anyway, all this to say that over a 5-year period, I had to man up, and I put myself through all these tests that I constantly learned about myself, my pain threshold, my bullshit threshold, my ability to negotiate with myself. Like, okay, just don't do it. Just go 7 miles, not 8 miles tonight. And then when the marathon comes, fake an injury. Like, that's the kind of shit that was running through my head. And I was like, who's going to know? I'm going to know. And you're going to be a fucking liar again. You're going to lose credibility with yourself. So people are like, dude, you got to put together, these guys would reach out to me like, you got to put together this man up thing where we can come and do, and you can beat us up. I'm like, I don't know how to beat you up. Like, I'm either going to kill you or I'm going to go too soft. It's not going to work either way. You're either going to be dead or you're going to be like, this was weak, right? I know how to punish myself because I'm just twisted that way.
Right.
So, and so as these guys are reaching out to me, all of a sudden I meet Ray at a speaking event. And he's like, I'm a big fan. Like, I was waiting to meet you. I was like, okay. He goes, you're going to go do a stuntman with me. I'm like, what's a stuntman? Well, we're going to go to the bar and I'll show you. It's like, all right, I'm down for a drink.
Yeah.
Do you know what a stuntman is?
No, I have no clue.
Apparently it's a Navy SEAL thing, and it's the stupidest thing on the planet because it fucks with your nose and your eyes. You get a shot of tequila, salt, and a lime. You put the salt on your hand. You snort the salt.
Oh, wow.
You shoot the tequila, and you squeeze the lime, like, rub it into your eye. I'm like, wait, why are we doing this, Ray? Like, we just met. Like, I speak tomorrow morning at this event, right?
That is awesome.
He's like, yeah, because we're going to be best friends forever, kind of deal, right?
That's
and
cool.
Sure enough, the guy grew on me. Like, we're like I just love him like a brother. There hasn't been a day since we met. It's been almost a year that he hasn't texted me or me texted him. So I meet the Navy SEAL. Then I meet the MMA fighter who ends up running my supplement company. And as it turns out, he used to be a former MMA fighter. Yeah. And then the guy in Idaho that owned the Kill House that I told you about reads my book, calls me and goes, if I sell the Kill House, can me and my wife and my kid move down there and work for you? I'm like, Matt, you're kidding me, right? He goes, no. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about, you're going to run a Kill House out here? I don't know how to do. He goes, no, for your Fit Body Bootcamp. I'm like, give me a day to think about this. And I talked to my wife. I'm like, I think he's crazy. He's lost his fucking marbles, you know? He's got the coolest job of all. He runs a kill house like with like CIA and FBI and all these military guys. Yeah. Like, why does he want to come and work for me, right? Yeah. But I didn't see who I'd become. So now I've got the SWAT sniper. He was a former SWAT sniper who turns into runs his own business. And so, of course, and then there's a client of mine who's a Marine. He's not sociopathic, but I think when the project starts, for those 75 hours, he blacks out and he becomes a sociopath, where even Ray has a hard time controlling him and only I can. So the five of us, those five guys, the sniper, the Navy SEAL, the Marine, the MMA guy, and me, put these guys, 16 guys, through 75 hours of full immersion and teach them problem solving, communication, decisiveness, leadership, and give them a creed, a 9-sentence creed that they can live by to become modern day knights. And it's a rebirth. And literally, the wives are sending me letters now, physical letters, like, you saved my marriage. The dudes are sending me messages like, I'm done talking to my toxic dad. I can't believe he had that hold over my head, over my mind. And so that's my passion project, man. I know I droned on about it, but it's just, I could talk about it. It's
totally awesome. I'm glad you brought it up, actually. I just did a podcast with Larry Broughton. You know Larry?
Larry, yes.
Yeah, so I did a podcast with Larry. And I went to a men's retreat just recently, last month, and I was so nervous about going to this retreat. I was like, I don't know. Yeah. It's going to suck. I don't know if I want to do this. And I went, and when I left the retreat, it was like I was renewed. Like I like left all the bullshit at the retreat, you know. And I came back like ready to be a better father, ready to be a better man, ready to be a better husband. And I was nervous about the podcast. I was like, man, I'm gonna go do this podcast with Larry. We're gonna be talking about business, and I really wasn't passionate about it. And we ended up going down the rabbit hole about men's work and like showing up fully as a father and as a man and as a husband and as a leader in your community. And it was awesome. So for you to bring that up, I was, oh, that's perfect.
Dude, perfect. Larry is the guy who taught me that phrase, that strong men create good times create weak men. It was Larry. As soon as you said Larry, I'm like, the dots connected.
Yeah. Great guy. Yeah, so I think it's awesome because I think that's what's missing in our society. I think there's so many uninitiated men that are just going through, like you said, like they probably don't like their wives probably don't like them, they're miserable, they never are intimate with their wives, they're probably cheating on them, who knows what's happening.
Yeah, no, you're right.
They're just miserable in all aspects of their life. So
dude, one guy, and I'm not going to mention any names and there's no way anyone's going to figure this out, but one guy was like, look, man, we live in LA. I work 3 times a week out of San Diego. On his drive home, those 3 times a week, he'd stop at the mistress's house, and then he'd gamble at the casino, and then he'd come home feeling shame and guilt and rage and anger at himself, at her, at the wife. And he was like, that's why I'm here today. Like, I need to stop this cycle. And we get into these cycles, and all it is different addictions. Like, for me, it was food. Like, I talk about how I would eat 4,000 or 5,000 calories at 10 o'clock at night, standing at the kitchen counter because I was stress eating, emotional eating. No different than vagina or gambling or alcohol or drugs. It's not like my addiction was better. I wish I did drugs. I might have gotten leaner instead of fucking fatter, right? So or at least I should have gambled. Might as well go into further in debt.
Right.
Like what, $640,000 in debt or $6 million in debt? It doesn't matter. I can't get out of that hole anyway, right? Yeah. So anyway, I share that with you because I needed the project, but it took me 5 years to project myself and to have these aha moments. Now we do it in 75 hours, and these dudes are just reborn. It's amazing.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to watch like what you guys do, and who knows, maybe I'll be a part of one of them. That'd be totally awesome. I want to ask you a couple questions. I ask everybody that comes on here. The first one being is, if you had one person or one book that inspired you the most your entire life, who would that person be, and what would that book be, and why?
Oh man, my entire life. All right, Napoleon Hill. And it's not what everyone thinks. It's not Think and Grow Rich. It is Outwitting the Devil.
Nice.
And I think everybody should listen to the audiobook of Outwitting the Devil, because it's Napoleon Hill having a conversation with the devil, saying, why do you give us addictions? He goes, like what? Like smoking. He goes, that's how I control you. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. It's not just the reader speaking the devil's part. It's literally the devil's voice in the audiobook is deep and bellowing like this. And he tells Napoleon Hill, he says, somehow Napoleon Hill, the way he describes it, he corners the devil, and he's got this mental hold on the devil. And the devil's like, look, I will tell you everything you want to know about why I make hell on earth for some of you, but I need you to refer to me as your majesty. And so he's literally got the devil in court. And he's like, so, Mr. Devil, why do you do this? He's like, I said, refer to me as your majesty. He's like, okay, your majesty. So it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it changed my life completely because I realized we create our own hell. We can create our own heaven. We have absolute direct control over everything in our life. Yet we blame circumstances and people and lack of opportunities. These addictions, whether they come in a can, whether they come in a form of a cigarette, or they come in the form of entertainment. And the first thing I thought of was when my family and I went to Rome, we went and saw the Colosseum. And the lady who was giving us a tour of the Colosseum, I'm like, wow, this was so nice of Caesar to create this, to entertain the people. She goes, you know why he created this? Like, have no idea. He goes, to keep the population busy while they keep raping and pillaging the land. That's what's happening today through alcohol, through cigarettes, through TV, while the government keeps its oppression on us.
Right. It's funny. I was on a hike the other day, and I was talking about just that. How like we're having like stupid like talking about like pronouns that people want to be called, whether gay people should be allowed to get married. All these like simple-minded questions. Like the 1% are not thinking about these things. Like they're giving you these little like sound bites of information for you to fight amongst yourself about.
That's it.
It's ridiculous.
Fight over this by the water cooler so you don't fight over another 2% tax that we're hitting you with.
It's insane. It's insane. If you had one lesson that you could teach somebody else that you wish that you would have learned early on in life to save you some heartache, what's that lesson you would want to teach somebody and why?
Yes. I was a pretty selfish guy early on in life, late teens, early 20s, because I was like, the world is a messed up place. Again, because based on my experience, right?
Yeah.
You know, whatever happens to you through life, especially in your formidable years as a kid, puts on these filters on your eyes and your ears, and you hear things differently, you see things differently than the guy next to you, based on his experiences, etc. And so I was a pretty selfish guy, dude. And I later learned that there's actually only 2 shirts that we put on every morning. The one shirt says, what can you do for me? And the other shirt says, what can I do for you? And I used to always wake up and put on the shirt, if you will, the attitude of, what can you do for me? I was looking for someone, what can you do for me? What's in it for me? If there's nothing in this for me, then why am I here, right? And I wish I would have become more of the servant leader earlier on. Like, how can I serve you? Because in the last decade and a half, 2 decades now, that I've show up with the attitude of how can I serve you, with expecting nothing back, I've gotten more in abundance, in fulfillment, in a sense of significance, in deepening of relationships than I ever thought was possible.
It's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
The last question I want to ask you is, what do you want your legacy to be? If you knew like tomorrow, you know, like you talk about in the book, like you thought you were having that heart attack, you know, and it turned out to be an anxiety attack, but imagine that heart attack is real and you're not going to make it. Like, what would you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered?
I want someone to go, man, Chloe and Andrew, wow, they're amazing kids. That their mom and dad did something right. Like, I just want to leave 2 great humans behind. Like, if I were to die now, and I'm very at peace with death, if lightning was to strike our building now and I died, I know Chloe and Andrew would just be servant leaders who give, who listen, who show compassion, live with empathy. And so I almost feel like I've already built my legacy, man. That's it. The millions that we're making, the billions that we'll make, that's all good and gravy.
Yeah.
It's my kids, because I should have. Well, I talk about it in the book. I was in police helicopter chases, and I was not the guy in the police helicopter. I was in the getaway car, home invasion robberies. Like, I've gone into a lot of trouble. I could very easily be the guy not sitting on this couch, being behind bars, right? At the end of the day, if my dad was like, man, I came to America, made all this money, but my son's in jail for life, what legacy did you really leave behind?
Right.
Like, if my name's going to continue on through those two kids, I want it to continue on where they're doing good for this world and the people in it, man. That's something that's very important to me, more than ever. Not because like, hey, they're Bedros's kids, but because I want them to experience that goodness of life, like that I now experience because I put on that shirt that says, "How can I serve you?"
That's awesome. I said that was the last question, but I have one more.
Okay.
And that's if someone's struggling to find purpose, because I think that's what a lot of people are struggling with. You know, people are like, you know, they're going to these dead end jobs or whatever. They're just going to their job because they need to pay the bills, but they're not really passionate about what they're doing. They're like, this isn't my purpose. This isn't what I want to do. I want to change the world. Like, how would you coach somebody into finding their purpose, what their purpose really is?
Yeah, good question. So that's an important thing, because I really feel that we wouldn't be on this planet. I mean, when you look at the odds, I think it was like, what is it, 1 in 1 trillion or 1 in 4 trillion or 400 trillion. It's like a ridiculous number that you were going to be you, right? And so I really believe like you're here. Here's 100 years. If you play your cards right with health, workout, mindset, et cetera, you'll have about 100 years. Now do something on this planet while you're here. Like make it better. Leave everything better than you found it. This is just my belief system. But we just kind of plug ourselves into someone else's dreams, someone else's vision, someone else's definition of how we should be. Well, you know, he's got ADD and OCD. He's a foreigner. He's always going to be blue collar, and he's big boned. No, I was fat. I wasn't big boned. Like, you can't just make me believe that. And I did. So I was like, oh, I'm always supposed to be this heavy. No, dude. Like, stop eating grilled cheese sandwiches and bologna and eat more lean meats and salad, right? And so, like, the identity that people put on us, and so, like, oh, go get a good job doing this, you know, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an accountant, and it's like, this isn't what I want to do. We do need a purpose. We're supposed to be here with a purpose, and that's, you know, I believe, and people might give you a lot of hate mail for this, but I'm going to say it anyway, depression, most of depression, 99% of depression and anxiety comes from a lack of defined purpose. It's, you know, it's gnawing at you. You know you're meant to do something greater. I'm not talking about like you're meant to be Elon Musk, like send a fucking Tesla to Mars like he's doing. Like he's the 1 in a million. Got it. But the rest of us are supposed to be doing something greater than we are now. Right? And that's why it gnaws at us. And the gnawing that you're feeling is depression. The gnawing that you're feeling is anxiety. The gnawing that you're feeling is like the suffering and silence, the I don't belong, I know there's more, and just this on edge feeling. That is the universe telling you that you're not living in your purpose. Unfortunately, your purpose isn't lost, where you can just go, oh, there it was, found my purpose. And most people are looking for their purpose, right? Stop looking for it. You develop your purpose like you develop a muscle. How do you develop your muscle? Through constantly doing sets and reps. So find something that you're good at and become the best at it. If you're working in a job and you don't like it, go get another job. Don't go, well, I'm going to hold on to this job until I find my purpose. It's not lost. Go get another job. Oh my gosh, I really enjoy this. Holy cow. Now become the best at it. As my friend Tom Bilyeu says, there's always room at the top for the best. And I believe that. And so if you're like, hey, I don't like working at Target, but holy smokes, I love working at Starbucks. And I remember people's orders, and I remember by name, and I know about what time they're going to come, so I make their drinks ahead of time, and there it is. Okay, well, you're the best barista that Starbucks has. But if you keep going to be the best at it, don't you think that you'll create the next chain of coffee shops? And then you develop your purpose. You develop your purpose. I was just like, I'm going to work out because I don't want to be a fat kid anymore, because I want to ask Nakaya to the prom. Before you know it, I was like, oh my God, this changed my confidence, my self-esteem. Never mind, it changed my body. I want to help one more person, so I'm going to get certified and help one more person. Okay, I'm going to get another client. All I want to do is just train clients full-time. I want to be in the gym 24 hours a day training clients. That's all I want to do. Just one-on-one personal training. Oh my God, I really enjoy this. Now I'm helping other personal trainers with their business. Oh my God, that trainer now has 200 clients because of me. Those clients have no idea they're getting in shape, but when he tells me that, I get excited. You see how my purpose developed? And now I coach and consult thought leaders and New York Times bestselling authors and NFL Super Bowl winning champions, and I own Fit Body Bootcamp and a supplement company. Like everything I do is still coaching. It's just not one-on-one in fitness anymore, but in fitness, in mindset, in business. So I developed my purpose over time because I found one thing that I'm good at, which was I just want to help people work out and get fit. More people need to do that.
That's so cool. I think, and that's so spot on, because I think a lot of us think that you're looking for your purpose, but it's like, no, developing it. I never thought of it that way. That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough, man. Thank you so much for being willing to come on the podcast and share your story.
Thanks for the opportunity, man.
It's like, you know what? Like, this is like the epitome of, like, what listening to you and your story should show everyone out there that anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
You know, anything is possible. So thank you so much for sharing your story and for coming on. And I look forward to linking up with you again soon, man.
Likewise.
All right, brother.
Thank you for listening to Getting Real with Josh Boyer. If you're loving the podcast, please leave a rating and subscribe. You can follow us on all social media platforms and YouTube at gettingreal_. You can also check us out at joshboyer.com.